Today we welcome Whitney Winkler, a local Memphis artist, to talk creativity in the margins. Whitney shares her unexpected journey to pursuing art as a career and how we can utilize our time to remain creative in our margins no matter how small they are, and how faith and art intersect. So let's get to it and meet Whitney Winkler in the green chair. Okay, Whitney.
Hey.
Hey, thank you so much for being here with us in the green chair.
I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, so I love what you're doing. I love your artwork. I love like the stories behind your art. I love all of it. And so I really just kind of want to dive in. You said a phrase that I cannot like get out of my head. I love it so much. Creativity in the margins. So I want us to talk about that, and I know some of it has to do with your story, but I just kind of want you to dive in because I love that whole philosophy.
Yeah, well, so you know how sometimes hindsight's 20/20, like you'll go through a season and then look back and be like, oh, that's what that was. Yes. And so I think creativity in the margins was kind of me putting terminology to my creative journey into business ownership, but I didn't like start out that way.
Yeah.
And so it kind of gave some language to that. Basically, I've kind of always been a creative, expressive person. I come from a family of songwriters, musicians, bluegrass musicians. My mom's a folk songwriter, and so out of the gate was expressing myself through song really young. But you have kids,
yes.
Yes. I have 3 little ones, and there was a season of lots of little tiny people, and I was not like able to express myself that way anymore. I was sleep deprived, wasn't coming up with any original thoughts or ideas, and so kind of just started painting in that season, and was expressing myself just in these small chunks of time, you know, like 11 p.m. until 11:20 when my baby woke me up, you know. So it was like a way to kind of have a creative moment, but I wasn't seeing a lot of like wonderful fruit of my labor. You know what I mean? And then that really was the start of a business that I didn't know that would happen. But when I look back on it, I'm like, okay, it was those marginal moments that kind of built to something bigger. And I think so often we're crippled by, we may have a vision, and I think it's great to have a vision and a dream, but like I think we're crippled by how big that is.
Yes.
And then we just kind of are paralyzed to start anywhere. And that's not an original thought, but I feel like sometimes if you can think about what are the margins of my time, my creativity, my energy, my money, and all of that really kind of adds up. Yeah. Like the other day I had literally 10 minutes, like during my daughter had a piano lesson.
Yes, you told me the story.
Yes, I told you that. And like, I was like, I could sit here in the car and wait, or I could jog. And so I jogged like
10 minutes.
I jogged, I think it was 9, you know, but it's like, well,
it's 9 minutes.
Something.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot more I could say about that as far as like it relates to business, because I think so often we feel like we have to just like dive in with like all these resources, build it and they'll come. And my story is I don't think you have to do it that way, but
yeah.
Anyway.
And I love that, and that's kind of what like attracted me to that concept too, is I think exactly like you in that we get kind of paralyzed by the big. You know, we get paralyzed by like, I've got this big dream or vision, or I don't know what my big dream or vision is.
Sure.
And one of the things I love that you were, and what you are kind of saying, is utilizing what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Like you had 20 minutes to do something. Were you in art at this time, or did art just kind of, it was just basically the only thing you could?
It was just a hobby. I mean, I've had seasons where I've sewn things, you know. It's way too much problem solving for me to sew. I have hung my hat. Or just throwing a baby shower for a friend and making it cute. just little creative lanes that have been outlets in that season of just
Okay.
momming
Yeah.
young people. But so that was just what I thought to be another one of those.
Okay.
And the paintings I would just kind of paint and then would sell them for like $20 to a friend or a friend of a friend. And it just kind of gradually kept going. And the way I would describe it is I was just kind of responding. So it's like, take a step, respond to what that leads you to, and then your margins, they kind of have to expand or not, like, so that's kind of, it's just been really incremental in that sense.
That's really neat. So when did it first come in the picture for you?
Like visual, like painting?
Yeah.
About 8 years ago.
Okay.
So, I mean, I painted in high school. I took art class and enjoyed it, but like, I'm not schooled,
you're not art major.
I'm not schooled in business or art. It's kind of a hard knocks type of situation here.
And how did you stumble into what you do? Because you're doing some really cool, like it's very different and it's really cool to like, I love what you're doing.
I think your creativity just kind of builds on itself. I mean, obviously, like, I'm not an island of creativity. I'm drawing inspiration all the time. We all are, from the world around us and from other people. And so it's not like, there's nothing new under the sun, but I think that just an idea will come and then you kind of tweak it a little bit and build off that. And it's just kind of flows. And sometimes I do worry. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to think of anything else, because you just compare and you worry and all of that. But there's seasons in and out of just dry seasons and good seasons and all that. So it's really fun.
And essentially for you then, it was just kind of taking steps, doing things that was right in front of you, using this little time. And I like that you said responding, responding to what these needs were.
Reacting. So like I paint something, they want to buy it. Great. I'll use that money and buy some more paper. Really incremental, really baby. And now I feel like it's given me freedom to direct the way I want my business to go because I still view it that way. I'm still responding to what is my client asking of me? And I can choose to say no to that or yes to that. And it kind of gives you direction more than if you set out to have this one thing. Well, what if that one thing isn't what your customer wants or what will work? I'm speaking in business, but just in anything, just to encourage people, any hobby, any goal. I think it's just I'm such a person, I kind of talk to myself, I guess, in my head. I'm a mantra girl. I love to, I don't know, it helps me to have a language for a feeling or for an experience.
I love this.
And so creativity in the margins reminds me of that incremental,
that incremental time. What are other mantras? I feel like you were telling me about some of them. I think they're good.
At night, when I'm cleaning up my house, I'll say, put it where it goes in my head. And it just reminds me there's an end to this. There's a goal. And it will be done. It will be done. The things will go. And if they don't have a spot, they need to go to Goodwill. You know? So.
And when your kids are melting down, I like that one.
My kids are melting. Yeah.
I mean, if your kids melt down. If you're
they're perfect. So, no, but when they were really little, I had a 2-year-old and a baby and a 5-year-old, and 2 of them were freaking out. I would just tell myself this is going to be over in 15 minutes. And I think I sort of operate in little doses like that, or else I feel really overwhelmed by life.
Because it can be overwhelming.
Totally.
So when was that pivot for you then, when you're like, okay, I'm going to pursue art as a career. I'm actually making money. I'm responding to people. This might actually be a thing.
I don't know that I could truly say I had that moment. I'm still kind of what am I doing? No,
but you have a studio now.
Sure, I'm opening a store,
which seems really big.
It's happening.
It seems very this is a job. This is a career.
It is a job. I just don't think I ever had that flip because it was marginal. It was just here's
evolving.
Here's the next thing in front of me. And I've always tried to operate like that. I'm not a big risk taker, so all my decisions have felt pretty safe in the sense of if this doesn't work out, that's okay. I'll step back to the margin I was at before. And so that's just what it is. But I mean, I feel like I'm on the cusp of another big step with just opening like a little store with my studio and managing all of that. And it feels really scary, but you know, it's just, again, I don't think I'm ever too far over my head that I can't redirect. So that's what I'm hoping to do. We'll see.
So it just all started baby step, baby step, baby step.
Baby step.
Yeah. And I love, so your shop, I actually was driving the other day and I saw it.
Did you see it?
It was so
There's
cute.
a sign.
It's on Hollywood in the Broad District, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I love that. That's really fun. Is it open or
No,
what?
no, it's not open. No.
What, do you have a goal for that? Or?
I'm hoping early June.
Okay.
So, but again, we have a lot of
Yeah.
marginal steps to get through before that. But we're doing it day by day. So.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about like your story of getting to Memphis. I mean, you're not from Memphis, right?
Not from Memphis.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that. How'd you land here?
My husband is a pastor at Redeemer Presbyterian in Midtown.
Okay.
And so we moved here when he graduated from seminary 6 years ago. And this was his first call after seminary.
Okay.
And moved in. And that really was, like, I had been painting prior to that, but that was, I didn't start really selling my work until I was in Memphis.
Okay.
A little bit before, but yeah, so we moved here for his job, and
did you know anybody in Memphis? I mean, okay, that's crazy.
I mean, he actually has a best friend that from kindergarten that happens to live here and work for St. Jude, but that was like kind of the one lone person.
Oh wow! So you started all over.
We did, but we've traveled a lot.
Okay.
We lived in Kentucky right out of college, and then we had a baby in Kentucky and St. Louis and then Memphis. So we've never been, we're from the same hometown actually in Illinois.
Oh, okay.
We've never lived there as adults. We don't know anything other than just relying on friends and church family to, our families are wonderful and help, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
It's just kind of where we've been, and we just really love Memphis and just are committed to it, and I just have no desire to do anything else other than what we're doing. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Really great.
And so what I love is your art and faith kind of intersect. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about how art and faith intersect for you.
Yeah, well, I mentioned earlier that I kind of engage with the world with energy, like with expression. And I feel like I'm not really one that's super great at sitting still. And so for me, my faith has always I've always interacted with God, whether it be like putting musical lyrics to scripture. Like that's kind of what devotional time looks like for me sometimes. Or having a good conversation. I feel like it's worship and it's, can be. Watering my flowers and praying, or going on a run. It's just always very expressive. And so for me, there's that element to it. Like, this is just a way that I can process what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm reading, whatever it is. But beyond that, I think probably in the last decade, I became a Christian pretty young, but have kind of had to deconstruct all of that in my adulthood. But in the last 10 years, I would say I've kind of realized, like, okay, Christ didn't just die and rise again from sin, but into new life. And so, and if you look at scripture, it's all over. Like Revelation 21 talks about God making all things new, heaven and earth. Christ, the old has gone, the new has come. We're saved into good works. And so I think the church can sometimes parse those two things apart, and it be kind of like, here I'm saved from sin, which absolutely very big reality. But then what? Then we're kind of like, okay, great. So out of jail card. But then it's kind of like, where's my purpose in this life if God doesn't care about these things? And so for me, it's been really beautiful to see that it's all over scripture that God cares about the physical, the material things. He's making all things new, heaven and earth. And I get to be a part of that. And I think it's just that's been an encouraging thing. And I think that's one of the reasons that like art, music, dance, all of those things mean a lot to a lot of people, because they're this collision of like the spiritual and the material kind of, and we all embody that every day, like in our souls and our bodies, like, but these kind of give language to that collision, and you're like, God cares about all of this, like, how exciting. And then the outpouring of that is just purpose. It's just like, if God cares about beauty, if he cares about truth, if he cares about justice and mercy, the church should be the first people in all of our lanes to say, to like go into the world and do those things, as mundane as they sometimes feel, to say like, he's making all of this new. And this is just a glimmer of, you know, like the kingdom is coming, but it's at hand. And that is where I find the most energy in my creative practice to keep pushing forth with just hope and beauty and trying to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and it comes through with your paintings. I mean, I think you were telling me that like you'll tend to do a lot of light, airy kind of. Yeah. I love that. Talk about that. I'm drawn in my creative self to paint, very hopeful and light. And I think sometimes that translates that I'm just like a really bubbly person, which I definitely kind of see things glass half full, but I just think it's just the message that I want to keep pushing. Just as, you know, as anyone, a doctor would go and keep healing, and a lawyer would keep executing. That's not the right word. You know, prosecuting.
Keep doing justice in the world, and a plumber keeps cleaning the pipes. Like all of those things are pushing back dark things, and I don't think a Christian has to paint light and airy art. Yeah. But that's just kind of the lane I've landed in, and it's funny because my home doesn't look like that. Like, I don't have any of my art in my home.
Oh, really?
It doesn't. But I have friends who, you know, all their paintings are up in their house. It really is a creative expression, and I sort of explain it like, once it's out of my hands, like, it's not mine. Like, it's sort of the journey I went on, and then now it's yours.
Oh, that's really neat.
But like, my house is kind of moody and neutral. It's interesting.
Oh, that is really funny.
It is really interesting. I don't know. And the art I'm normally drawn to is as well. So that to me shows that there's this separation between kind of how I'm processing experience in the world, and then what I actually take in for myself is a little different. I don't know.
That's really neat.
I'm still figuring that out.
It's
10
a
years,
process.
I'll have like a mantra for it.
Yeah, seriously. I love that. And so I love just thinking of how faith and art kind of intersect, and I love how you're kind of like going through all of this. What about with like some of your paintings? I mean, are there paintings that you can think of that are like, this one was during this season, or this one, like things that kind of stand out to you? The things that I'm thinking through is you just launched a whole new kind of line series. I don't know, collection. Thank you.
The bouquets.
Of like floral type paintings, and then you also, I really distinctly remember you had a like anatomy series. I'd love for you to talk about those.
So the anatomy series is funny because I have like, crush is the wrong word, but I like admire medical professionals so much, like so much so that one day I went down to the community college and I was gonna be a nurse, I just, but yet I can't watch a needle go in my arm, so it's kind of like this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything like that where you're just like, I want to be that in another life.
Yes.
So if I ever meet a nurse, I'm like, you're so cool. Like, thank you. Anyway, it's just this thing. It's a thing. But so for me, I think painting body parts was like as close as I could get to that, like that thing. And then I started thinking about, again, glass half full. What's the redemptive function of like this part? Like, it started with the heart.
Yes.
And it was like pitter patter. And so that kind of encompasses like the emotions of the heart and the function of the heart. And so then I started thinking of all these things, like your rib cage is your safe space. And so I made a card that was like, you're my safe space, with the rib cage. And it got real bizarre. Like, I was painting skin at once.
Yeah.
But people love them.
Yeah.
They're probably some of my best selling things. And I love the way, like, the human body is so beautiful, and when you like isolate each part, you're like, that is so cool. Like, it's so cool that thing does that for me every day. And
Yeah.
like, I'm not really thinking about it,
Yeah.
you know?
So the rib cage was safe space. What was the heart? I can't remember what you called some of them, because it
So
was
that's
really
the card.
it was really creative.
The ribcage print says shield on it.
Shield,
The
that's right.
the lungs say inhale, exhale. The what else? The spine says brace.
I like that.
So it's kind of but then I have a pelvis that says sway. It's
like
just
that.
like it's just kind of whimsical and
Yeah, yeah. And what about the floral?
the florals. Well, again, reacting. I've never really painted like a floral collection, and people ask me like, "Do you have florals? Can you make?" Because I'll do them for commissions, but I've never like done a collection. And I think coming out of this year, like actually a lot of my painter friends painted florals this spring, and it's spring, I get it, but like also we're just like starved for like
beauty
and life,
Yeah.
and like I don't know if you feel that way. This spring has had so much more light. It's like I've got my vaccine. It's warming up the air. It's light. It's like a little bit lighter
Yes.
than it's been.
Yes.
And I like that's really there's not a whole lot of depth to it other than just like I just felt like that was my exhale, you know, of just this year. So.
Yeah. Well, there's depth in that sense, like your exhale is just kind of like beauty. I mean, you're exhaling beauty onto the world and to other people as you're painting these things. So that's really neat. That's really neat. Okay, so lessons along the way. I mean, tell me some like big, huge things you would remind people, encourage people today as they're kind of listening through all of this in your story.
My biggest encouragement is just kind of what I said earlier, that like God has given us all like a beautiful lane to run in, and like just there's hope and redemption in whatever you do. And I think it can just feel, I think it kind of ties it all together, like with the creativity in the margins too. It can just feel like, you know, you've got the 9-to-5 grind and you're just kind of pounding through life, but to see the glimpses of like God's care for what you do in with your days, and then if what you're doing is not what you want to do, like there's margin for finding space to do like what you love, and he cares for that, you know?
Yeah.
And,
what encouragement, like I love being like super practical, like that's kind of one of the things. And so like practical starts for people, like how would you encourage them to cultivate creativity in the margins? Like how would you encourage people to like start? Like what's something that they could begin doing today?
I mean, watercolor is a great medium. It's great because it dries fast. It really, you know, you can get it in one sitting and see something. You know, this artist that I follow, she is a mom, and she created a whole series called Motherhood Interrupted, and this was kind of after I had put language to it, but this was like the embodiment of creativity in the margins. She would paint, like she had really little ones. She would sit down and paint anytime she had a free moment. And then whenever she was interrupted, they woke up from the nap or whatever, she would stop and that would be the painting. Like,
oh, wow.
Which I've never done. I always want it to be polished and whatever. And she hung it all up in a gallery, and it was this beautiful picture of like, look at this. This is beautiful, and it's half done, or it's, you know, she had 2 minutes to do this one. And I think just finding contentment in that small dose, the small practice. And again, I want to reiterate, it's not wrong to have a vision or a dream or to see a bigger picture, but I think we miss a lot of the beauty along the way. Myself included, because I'm such a goals person. Even in just resting in the undone, you know, resting in the, like, I love that illustration of Motherhood Interrupted, of just like this idea that it doesn't have to be polished and perfect, and just kind of doing with what you can with your 9 minutes or your 10-minute run or whatever that is. I think it's just kind of utilizing that like tiny time it feels like we have. Yeah, and we long for the finished painting. Like that has been sewn into our hearts. We long for the full story and the plot to be, you know what I mean? But I think that's such a picture of spirituality, like the already not yet. The kingdom's coming. It's not here. I mean, it's here. I'm sorry. It's coming and it's here.
Yes.
You know,
it's like a
the
tension.
half-done painting is, I'm finding some beauty in the half-done painting. It's pretty neat, you know, or the 9-minute run at the 12-minute pace, whatever it is.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, that's really, really good. Whitney, thank you so much for being here with us. I so appreciate this conversation. It has just been so enlightening and inspiring to me. I mean, I think I love you've really kind of changed my perspective on, I want the big time, I want the big picture, but you've really challenged me to really utilize the small. So thank you.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is a wrap for our Green Chair conversation with Whitney Winkler. Thank you so much for being connected with us today. We'd love for you to take a moment and encourage someone today by sharing this conversation. Also, you can watch any previous conversations on our YouTube channel or at hopechurchmemphis.com/GCC, or listen wherever you stream your podcasts. We love you guys, and I'll see you next week.